All right, yo, welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. And it's not a very happy day, not at all. We get swept by the Tampa Bay Rays, who came in struggling into the series. But before we get into it, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave us your comments, let us know how frustrated you are. And Victor, how you doing?
Horrible. Right before we got on, guys, I kind of just yelled at my dad. Yelled at him for making me suffer a lifelong curse, is what it feels like. A lifelong of being a Mets fan for as long as I have to endure this. Because what is this? I have to watch putrid baseball on a day-to-day basis for the rest of my life. And you know what? I'm gonna watch tomorrow. And do I think it's going to be better? No, but I'm gonna watch every inning, every pitch, and that's just gonna be what that's just what it's gonna be for the rest of my life. Just torture, insanity is what it is gonna be. I'm just going insane.
Oh man, I can't say anything about that, man. At this point, I apologize, but let's get into it. Because there's not much to talk about other than our concerns. But let's review the series. Quintana on Friday just didn't have it for some reason. After the 8 inning start the other day, just didn't have it. And Brett Beatty did his best opportunity, the best thing to keep us in the game. But everybody else didn't do anything. So Quintana's going to have those games, so it's something to you can't get too upset about because he was great the game the game before. But if somebody else would have produced other than Beatty, we might have had a chance of winning that game.
Not only that, I mean, our pitching goes down early, and we understand that. We understand where we're at in that situation, but to completely and I'll give the Mets credit because they ended up fighting back. It wasn't just Brett Beatty contributing to the scoring. You had I think Brandon Nimmo or Francisco Lindor got on the board. Starling Marte contributed, and the only hit that Pete had this series was a double in that game that ended up getting us on the board. So it was one of those, you get down early and there's no way of fighting back. And that game was not bad. I wasn't too upset about it because we were able to fight back after losing, going down 8 in the 3 innings, which isn't easy to do. Our bullpen isn't going to always be Superman and be able to get us through games and go shutty so that we can claw back into games. But Quintana, we know this. We saw the writing on the wall because this happens all the time with starting pitchers when they're able to go 8 innings or a longer release, even though they don't pitch even though they don't pitch more, they don't throw more balls, which that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why they end up being worse than in that start. But anyway, he is just hopefully he has the bounce back start. We obviously saw the best that we were going to get with his 8 inning start the prior week, but I think this has to be the worst start that he's going to make in the Mets uniform, and I at least hope so.
Yeah, no, just like yourself, I wasn't too upset about this game, because he pitched lights out the game before, and Ron Darling even mentioned it. Sometimes this happens after an outing like that, the previous outing. So it's something that just happens, and you're right. This game didn't bother me as much. The game two is where let's just get into it. Game two, we get a good feels. We get the Christian Scott game. He pitches. He had a rough first inning or first couple batters and held it to a 1 run. Held it to 1 run. Held it to 1 run. And then we get shut down by Littell, and we get into their bullpen because he only pitched 6. We get into their bullpen. The bullpen, who has been has injuries like crazy and has been giving up runs like crazy because they've been struggling in the bullpen, shut us down. We didn't have anybody on base or a score since the first inning in that game, and we ruined the Christian Scott start.
One of the worst bullpens in baseball, and you make them bring all the numbers back up in this one single series. We couldn't hit a lick off of any pitcher in any of these games besides the first one. And Littell, we made that guy look like a Cy Young caliber pitcher. He used to be a bullpen piece that they transformed into a starter this year, and we make him look like he's been doing this since the beginning, letting him go 6 innings. And credit to their management for pulling him when he did, because he started to lose some life. And we can't even blame the umpires in that game, because obviously there were some horrible calls off the plate. Marte got struck out one time where I thought it was absolutely horrible, which set the tone for the game. But if you guys were watching the broadcast, which I hated listening to Adam Wainwright call that game, nothing against Adam Wainwright. He's just an ex-Cardinal, and you know how we feel about the Cardinals. And he was just, he said it perfectly. When you're living outside on the edge of the box, then you're able to get those calls stretched. But an umpire should know point and period. They should know the box, but not even that. If you know that the umpire has an extended box, you need to be able to adjust to that, because it's not like it changed the whole game. He's called the same pitches the whole game, and you need to be able to hit that guy. What, he throws 92, 93 max, and you're not able to sprinkle in some runs there? Like, come on. One run after a masterclass of Christian Scott, and it just gave all the same feels of Jacob deGrom's starts being wasted here in Queens. And I know that Mets fans are not going to sign up for that again. So this brings up the question: does this lineup need to change? Like, is something going on with the flow of the lineup that they're not being able to flow into each other? Like, we obviously have people that have the repertoire and that can hit, but they weren't able to back up Christian Scott in this start here. And it just, you could see it on his face. He's like, I don't want to sign up for this future, because this is torture. Just like he was feeling like every other Mets fan, just feeling like his opportunity got wasted in a Mets start that was just hideous. It was bad.
Yeah, no, for sure, and it's very frustrating. I mean, the flow. The problem is, and we're going to get to it later. It is guys like Pete Alonso. I'm sorry to tell you, guys like McNeil, killing rallies. And let's review the third game real quick before we get to our concerns. And that was the game today. We had so many opportunities. Again, Severino gutted it out. He also didn't have it, but he gutted it out 5 innings. And again, rally killers. Pete Alonso, how many times did he come up today with an opportunity to blow the game open and extend the lead, and nothing? Double plays, flyouts, striking out. McNeil the same way. What are we doing here?
This whole series, after seeing Pete Alonso drive in that or hit a double in that first game, it gave me some hope that he would start to break out in this series. And I don't know why I gave myself the chance to think that every time he came up to the plate, this is going to be the one. This is where he's going to hit that ball out of the yard and get out of his slump. But it's like they said in the broadcast, he's late, or like Mendoza said, he's late on his breaking pitches, but he's early on the fast pitches, which is, something you got to figure out. You're a major leaguer. You're good. You're supposed to be good. And for you to strike out twice or ground into a double play when the bases are loaded, giving our guys an opportunity to add on, giving the opportunity for Severino to get more of a cushion in that lead. It just, you can't be doing that, man. And this is not even on Edwin, and we'll get to our concerns with Edwin, but come on, man. Like, you expect to hold on to a lead, a 5-4 lead, with leaving the bases loaded stranded 3 times in that game, and
Yeah,
opportunities to hit.
we went 3 for 13 with runners in scoring position today, and 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position yesterday. We're not coming clutch. We're coming clutch in that, when we were being competitive, and all of a sudden we're back to how we started the season, and not producing, not coming up clutch. Lindor's starting to show a little bit of life, but man, we need Alonso, I'm tired of seeing McNeil batting up in the batting order when he hasn't done anything all year.
Yeah, I'm finally done with McNeil. This series kind of put a pin in it, and I'm behind you all the way. And it just makes you so upset and so saddened by the Ronnie Mauricio injury this offseason, because he would have been that guy. And who knows how different our team would have been, look, or how it would have looked if Ronnie Mauricio was in that lineup instead of McNeil, at least providing a little more life and passion, because we've seen that from the young guys. Even Brett Beatty, when he wasn't playing at his best, provided some of that life. He gave up a run. He basically gave up a run today, making a couple of bad decisions, but he was able to brush it off and still get on base after that. McNeil, it seems like he's not even staying in that bat. 3 times he struck out today, and then he popped out the last time. If you're going to be an on base hitter, how are you going to strike out 3 times? That's not something that's supposed to be happening. And it's like you said, these guys are placed in the position where they should be keeping the rallies going. Pete Alonso is a 4 hitter, and he should be able to bring in some runs with the bases loaded. Or Jeff McNeil was hitting 6 today, right? He should be able to at least do a little better than that. But at this point, you got to move everybody up. Do what they did with Jose Siri. Bring him down, because Jose Siri looked horrible, and maybe that's just what we need to do with Jeff McNeil.
Well, and we'll skip the standout player of the series, because it'd be a toss up between, I think, Lindor or Beatty. But let's go right into the concerns. I don't understand if Beatty is the guy that we expect him to be. Why is he batting so low in the batting order? I understand that he was struggling for a little bit, but so is everybody else. So I don't understand why he is so much lower in the batting order when McNeil should be down there. What has he done all year to be batting 6? He's not done anything. And Bader is the same way. He's a streaky hitter, and against a righty, he shouldn't be batting so high. He shouldn't be batting 7th. You know what I mean? So high, 7th. But my point is that Beatty should be in front of both of these guys, because they're not doing anything. And at least, Beatty, a couple hits today, a walk on Friday, kept us in the game. What are we doing? What are we doing with this lineup? Maybe, and this is the flow that you're talking about, is that Beatty should be up in the batting order. I don't understand this obsession with McNeil.
They're just trying to get his groove back, and he's proven that he's not going to be there yet. And this is what we talked about when we started the season, and he wasn't hitting well. That he needs to be in that 9 hole to keep rallies going, if that's what they want. If they want him to work on his stuff, because that's only going to help the team at the end of the day. And I think that they don't trust Beatty yet, because we saw a couple of times in this series he struck out in pretty big spots, and he wasn't able to get the runs in. But at the same time, he went I think he batted three something this series with 2 home runs and an extra base hit. So why isn't he batting higher? I have no idea. But there was a couple of questionable decisions by Mendoza this time that I kind of had an issue with too. Like, for example, with Quintana staying in as long as he did. He obviously didn't have his stuff. I understand he wanted to make him work on his stuff, or see if he was able to get it back. But with anybody else, you don't keep him out there that long. And
I would say with Quintana, like I said, that game didn't bother me so much. But I think with the whole Quintana is the amount of games we had in a row. I think they were trying to give him that leash because we have so many games in a row. We're bringing up Scott to do the 6-man rotation, and our bullpen's already taxed.
You act like you got well. They act like they don't have guys in the minor leagues on their way up. Like we talked about last time, Joey Lucchesi was up and able to make a start like that, or Blade Tidwell had a great start in the minor leagues this past week. But I get it. That's not that big of a deal. They wanted him to make sure they wanted to see if he can get himself out of that situation. He wasn't able to. But Ottavino, when he's in a tough spot like that, I don't think he should stay in that game that long. Bring in another reliever because he looked like he was struggling from the beginning, and to keep him in that long, getting up to almost 40 pitches is not healthy for him. Keeps him out for another 2 games, and it doesn't help when Sean Reed Foley has the bases loaded to go back into that game. He's not that kind of reliever. I don't know if we thought he was that kind of reliever, but we know that he's not going to a clutch guy. He's been pitching well, but that doesn't mean that you put him in a spot like that. It's such a big spot.
Well, and this is one of the issues with Ottavino. Ottavino is a pitcher that gets in and out of trouble. He's one of those heart attack pitchers, and the reason they leave him in the game is because he gets out of those bad situations that he puts himself in. And they kept talking about the worst outing of the season for Ottavino, but this is the problem when you're always playing with fire, eventually you're going to get burnt, right? And so this is the problem with Ottavino is that he puts himself in a bad position. He puts the Mets in a bad position because he's always playing with fire. I don't know how many times I was yelling at my TV, throw a strike. You know what I'm saying? Make the guys hit the ball. You know
Even
what
if
I
he
mean?
hits the ball, even if he puts bat on ball, you put the ball in play and leave it up to your outfield to get the out, just like you did with Francisco Lindor. And obviously that wasn't a pretty play, but you see what you have there. Don't try to paint the corners like you were trying to do. And I get it. He gives up home runs now and then, but that's a risk you're gonna have to take rather than just giving up a run like that. And this is I'll go to my other concern now, and I'm not sure how much you're concerned with Edwin Diaz now, but this is now two games in a row that he's given up, or two big spots that he's given up home runs. And I'm not concerned with his level of pitching. I'm concerned more with the home run rate, and because he's already given up 2 home runs this year. And that's something that you get with the type of pitcher that he is. But he's been hanging stuff. He's been not locating well. Even in the starts that he's done well, he hasn't been locating well. And this was a big one because it ended up losing us the game, and then
Yeah,
so
no,
did the other one.
no, and I get it. I get the concern. I'm not too concerned because Gary said it in the broadcast today. This is the first save situation since April 15th. First save situation since April 15th. Even though he's a closer, he still needs to work in save situations. Not come in when the game's tied, not getting some work in on a game that doesn't matter. He needs to come in save situations. He's a closer. A couple years ago, he changed his song up to Narcos because he's a closer. He wants the big time opportunities. But when you get 15 days, or wait, no, 20 days between save opportunities, that doesn't bode well for you. You know what I mean? So I get the concern, and he was staying away from his fastball, but that's mainly on Rosarena that he was afraid because Rosarena is a big fastball hitter, and so you try to stay away from the fastball with a guy like that. But the problem is our offense is still the problem. Our offense is still the problem. You know, the game shouldn't have been that close. Gary and was talking about that the Rays and the Mets are the most teams with 1-run games. You're playing with fire when you're doing run-1 games. You know what I mean? You're playing with fire. And I get it. You don't want to see Edwin give up home runs, but at the end of the day, for me, this is me talking. Giving up, having 20 days between save opportunities, that's on the team. That's on
Yeah,
the team.
no, for sure. for sure. But at the same time, every time we were up in every single game this series. We went up 3-0 in the first game, 2-0 in the second game, 1-0 in this game, and we were not able to hang on to a lead. And there's only so much you can do as a team to keep yourselves in games when your pitchers are working against you. And that's what it seems like it's been this year so far, is that the team has been working against itself. Every time we have good pitching, our bats aren't there. Every time we have bats, our pitching isn't there. And it's like we can't win. We're not working as a team now.
Well, the thing is, I got to disagree with you. We haven't had bats all year. So we can't call games like the one on Friday and a couple weeks ago a game these random games where we have a lot of runs and say the bats did something. No, we haven't had bats all season. In the beginning, Lindor was struggling like crazy, right? Pete was struggling like crazy. He just ran into a couple that made us feel better about Pete. But at this point, Pete looks lost. The broadcast is saying Pete looks lost. The broadcast is saying Pete looks lost. What are we doing? They're saying McNeil looks lost. Okay, I get with Pete. Pete's your guy. You're not going to change him in the batting order, but maybe give him a day off. Maybe give him a day off. Maybe give him a day off. Let him gather himself. But McNeil, what is this obsession with McNeil? You know, I was advocating for a trade for McNeil in the offseason because we needed a change, kind of like what you were talking about the flow, and we needed a change. McNeil was the guy that I pointed to that needed to be the guy that we give up and trade and change things up. And I understand that the Ronnie thing kind of put a little hamper, hurt that a little bit. But at the end of the day, he's the guy that I identified that needed to be traded from this team. I like Squirrel, but the Mets need to change. And he was the guy I identified because you can't trade Lindor, right? Franchise guy. Pete's in the last year, and you want to resign him, right? So you don't want to trade him just yet, right? McNeil was the guy that needed to be traded, right? Nimmo can't be traded because he just got a contract, right? So McNeil was the guy that needed to be traded. And at this point, give me Acuna. Bring up Acuna.
No, he'll frustrate you just as much as Jeff McNeil has. The only difference is he'll steal more bags, but he won't have as much of a defensive upside, I don't think. But at the same time, it doesn't matter if Jeff McNeil isn't doing as well, if everyone else isn't producing it either. I know he's in clutch spots where he's supposed to be getting those runs, but if we go down the list, Pete Alonso obviously isn't hitting well. JD Martinez didn't look great in this series either, and he's hitting at 5. And we can't just brush past that because he was supposed to be our savior, quote unquote. But then you have Harrison Bader batting 7th, which he comes in clutch, but like you said, he's so hit and miss that it doesn't even matter. And then you have Beatty, and then you have Nito, and all of these guys that we mentioned all have their bright spots, but they never flow together like these other teams do. And I don't know if moving one piece will do that. It seems like we have to completely restructure this roster. And the problem with that is that we've tied ourselves to Francisco Lindor. And that's not such a problem. Hear me when I say this. It's not a problem because Francisco Lindor is a very good player. I might even say great player. But when you have to build your team around one player, that kind of ruins things for your franchise. And it straps you down for a long time to make adjustments that you might not be able to make. But at the same time, McNeil, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I hope he pours it on, but this has to be an internal thing where these guys aren't doing well. The hitting coach might be, Eric Chavez. This is his first year back, at hitting coach, and I don't know if this is so much on him, but maybe John Gibbons isn't making such great decisions. There has to be something going on because it can't just be all the bats just going cold.
No, and it's not all the bats going cold. It's rally killing bats. That's the problem. And the two bats that are killing rallies right now are Alonso and McNeil. You can't get away from that. I know you always have your McNeil hat because that's your boy, but McNeil has been killing rallies all year because of where they have him in the lineup. You know, I may not be as upset if he wasn't in the middle of the lineup when people on base are coming up. Like you said, he's he's coming up and he's striking out. Not only was he striking out, he was striking out looking. He wasn't even swinging at the bat. I mean, at the ball. He was looking, and he's in the middle of the lineup. I'm sorry to tell you, this is I get it. Yes, Martinez didn't look good this series, but he's been this first series he hasn't looked great. Okay, Alonso doesn't look good, but he's the guy that you may think you want to sign. So I get not messing with Alonso so much. Again, I don't want to keep harping on this. I don't understand the obsession with keeping McNeil up in the lineup. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I just don't get it.
No, we've talked about it, and we sound like a broken record at this point. He needs to be batting ninth, and Carlos Mendoza, he used to at the beginning of the season change up the lineup so that he was trying to find the best lineup, and we questioned that decision because we wanted the solid structure of Nimbo, Marte, Lindor, Pete, and then whoever's at the bottom. And we wanted that to be solid. But this might be one of those situations where he needs to start changing it up again and see what finally fits because this is going on 2 weeks of baseball where our bats haven't been flowing as they should be. And it's it like I'll keep on pointing. It's not always just on the player. Sometimes the manager has to make a decision to start moving these guys around so that there's an opportunity for the team to win and not for just the guy to get out of the slump.
Yeah, no, and that's where we're going to disagree. Players play. Managers. The decisions that will cost or make a game are about a dozen a year. I can't blame the lineup other than the bats, other than one person in the lineup, and that's where they put McNeil. I don't understand it, but I'm not going to go back to it but let us know what you think. Let us know how you're feeling about McNeil batting up in the lineup. Do you think this is on Mendoza? Do you think McNeil needs to get out of the lineup? I don't know. Bring Acuna up. Let us know how you're feeling about that. But let's get to the who's right part of the podcast. Because we've been ranting about our concerns for I guess the last 20 minutes or so. So let's keep it going. The batter of the game of the series. It's a toss up between Lindor and Beatty, but I'll give you the point and give you Lindor. But
Yeah.
Beatty had he had a couple home runs but like I mean Lindor had more overall series.
And I don't know if I'll take. I don't even want to concede the point there because I we don't deserve it when we don't get anything out of it, right? But at the same time, the only thing that's been encouraging from this series, at least, is seeing how confident Francisco Lindor looks at the plate. He looks like he's back to his MVP form. He's back to being the Silver Slugger and the Gold Glove that we know, and just so at peace at the plate. And it's led to some great hits. He's not pulling the ball. He's pushing it when he needs to, and he's looking back to where he needs to be, right in the middle of that lineup. And if we can get 1 through 3 at least going well, which we've had this in this series, Brandon Nimmo, Marte, and Lindor all contributed huge in this series, getting on base a lot. But like I said, like we talked about, Pete wasn't able to drive them in, and Brett Beatty, he had a few hiccups with some defense, with some defensive plays in Sunday's game. But he had 2 home runs, doubling his home run count on the year, and he's still looking like a stud at defense. We won't bring a couple of bad plays in a wonky field to say that he's he's not got it because he's proven all year that he's still defensive upside at third base.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm okay conceding that point this week. I agree with you. Beatty did have a good series. And you can argue maybe I'm argued out. So that's how the Mets got me right now. But the pitching, obviously none of us. I picked Diaz, you picked Severino, and Reed Garrett probably was the pitching standout of the series. Just like always, right? He's been the pitching guy all year, and we keep sleeping on him. And the Mets killer of the game of the series was you picked Paredes, I picked Rosario, and it was DeLuca.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about. Yeah,
Did
he's a free agent right now. You
you,
know, thinking about picking him up too.
DeLuca had 6 RBIs this series, and but
Well, he's probably replacing Jose Siri in center field with how atrocious he looked out there with his defense and with his bat. You know, he looked absolutely horrible. I don't know if Peralta, scared him a little bit, or if Abreu, you know, was it Abreu? Who was it that swung at him? I can't remember, but scared him and knocked some sense in or knocked the baseball out of him because he looked horrible this series. And DeLuca might take his spot, but I would have to say Christian Scott probably the pitching standout of this series just because of how awesome he looked. Man, it looked like a bright future, and him just painting the corners, being able to strike guys out, having so much confidence after getting into trouble in the first inning and being able to get out of it. You know, the future looks bright in Queens for that young man, and I hope that he's here to stay.
yeah, and you're right. I was so frustrated with the offense. I almost forgot about the Christian Scott game. But you're right. He was the pitching standout of the series. And that's one thing that we got a question. Is he up here to stay? Because the question is not his stuff. The question is his innings limit. You know what I mean? And last year I believe Gary said that he only pitched 90 innings last year. So is that going to hamper how much he's going to be up here at the big league club? Because I don't know if you guys remember with Yuri Perez of the Marlins last year, he was up and down all season long because they were trying to protect those innings limit. And so that's the question with Christian Scott. And we might be seeing him for the next couple weeks, but I wouldn't be surprised him going down because of his innings limit once all the pitchers, the reinforcements come back.
This is one spot where I liked where Carlos Mendoza managed the game. I think he took Christian Scott out at the perfect time, and it wasn't like he had one more batter to face in that inning to get out of it. He has 96 pitches, and he might have been able to get out of that fairly quickly because he had his 7, 8, 9 pitch innings, and just towards the end he was getting up to 10, 13 pitches in an inning. But at the same time, that's what you're supposed to do as a manager. Get him where he's still itching to get that one more batter, but at a spot where he's comfortable in coming out of the game. And you saw Christian Scott was okay with it too. And I think that if he's managed correctly, then we wouldn't have to worry about the innings limit. But just like we found out with Quintana and Severino, we're gonna find out next start if he's really here to stay.
Well, I mean, he'll be here. The innings limit is not something like I said. That's why I referenced Yuri Perez. He was in here for a couple starts, even for a month or so, and then he went down. And then he came back up for a month or so, and then he went down because of his innings limit. So I don't think the next start's gonna be an indication of that. I think it's gonna be at the end of the month when we see all the reinforcements come back, and that's when we're gonna see if the innings limits are is going to be a factor in why he stays up here or not.
Well,
So
yeah, we're still talking about a sad franchise in the Miami Marlins, though. So let's hope that we don't have to compare ourselves to them. But I know your concern, and let's hope that he can continue to make a name for himself here and force his hand to stay up here.
Yeah, well, again, it's not about his stuff. It's going to be an innings limit question, and that, regardless of your stuff, isn't going to supersede your stuff if you have an innings limit.
Yeah, well, they've obviously tried to work him up. David Stearns has talked about him not coming up earlier because they wanted him to develop into a pitcher. So it is one of those things we got to trust our front office to make those decisions to keep this kid healthy and to keep him performing at a right level and his development.
Yeah, no, for sure, and that's the key, right? Because again, we're talking about this year, that this is wild card year. So do we really want to risk Scott's for a year that might not even matter at the end of the day, because of where we are as a franchise? Because the goal was always 2025 to go after it, and so yeah, like you said, we're gonna trust the front office, but that's the question I have is the innings limit, if that's going to be a factor in if he's going to stay up here or not. But let's preview the next series. We're on our way to St. Louis, and we got to see this franchise again. And so we got tomorrow Gibson versus Mania. Hopefully, Mania can stop giving up those walks. On Tuesday, we got Michaelis versus Budo. And then on Wednesday we have Gray versus Quintana, and that's where I want to see it. I want to see Quintana come back and rebound from the start that he had on Friday.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I'm not excited for this series, and obviously this past series with the Rays has a lot to do with that. But the way that we got worked up by Sonny Gray and Miles Michaelis last time around, and even their bullpen was able to keep us at bay at times. It just doesn't give me any assurance going into this series. My only hope is that Sean Manaea pitches well enough to keep us in the game, that we can win this series opener against Sean Gibson. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if we make all these pitchers look like aces. And like last time, we were able to stay in the games because our pitching. So as long as our pitching is there, and as long as their bats are still dead, which they haven't gotten too hot lately, they've stayed kind of down. I think did they lose that series to the White Sox? I don't think they lost that series, but they lost. They at least won 2 of 1. They're still not a great Cardinals organization, and I think that we can win this game, this series. But I have no confidence in our pitching or in our bats to get on these starting pitchers.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. So I found myself a couple times dreading seeing Pete come up to bat when we were striking to blow the game open, and so it's a horrible feeling. Especially, we love Pete, but like you said, there's not a lot of confidence right now in our bats. Doing a lot. So let's pick our breakout. Who do you think is going to be the standout bat of the series? Let me know. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a good pick for me, just because I have no idea where to go with this. So it's not so good for me because there's not really much options, right? But at the end of the day, someone who had a decent series that I think will continue to be a leader in this bullpen, and or in this club, and he's talked about being a leader by example, and that's what he's gonna have to do here. Brandon Nimmo is gonna have to continue to step it up, and he was able to get back on base 3 times today by getting hit by a pitch twice and walking the 3rd time, and he had a hit, and he had a decent series. He scored a couple of runs, and and was able to get out in front. So he's got to be that leader by example and lead this team.
Yeah, and one of the stats that came out, I don't know if it was this series or a previous series, is that he's leading the team in RBIs, right, and at the leadoff position, and that's just telling of our offense right now. And that's a good pick by you because all we want is Nimmo get on base. That's what we want from Nimmo. As long as he's getting on base, I'm happy. Being hit, walking, singles, doubles, home runs. I don't care how it is. Just get on base. Do it. And so that's a good pick by you. I thought you were going to pick my guy, but the only other guy that's actually done something in this series. Well, Lindor has done something in this series, so let me not say that. But I'm gonna go with Brett Beatty. I'm gonna go with Brett Beatty. I think he's gonna keep going. I think he, ran into a little bit of a skid there after he got hurt, and I think he's feeling better and maybe a little bit of a wake up call when Vientos came up. Who knows? Put a little bit more fire in him, and so I know that there was no threat of him going down, but the fire is still there, right? You see a guy do well when he comes up, and you sat one of those games. It if it was me, I'd be fired up, and so hopefully he keeps going and keeps building on this series.
Yeah, it's a great pick. And one thing that was encouraging in this series from Brett Brady is that he was able to make some mistakes, but then come back and bounce back. And that's what we weren't able to see from him last year. And, he plays with such passion that every time he comes up to bat, you get excited. Let's just hope that he gets those strikeouts down. But like you said, I think Mark Vientos struck fire in him and started nudging him on to hit for more power.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. So let's move on to the pitching standout of the series. I'm gonna go first on this one, and I'm gonna pick my guy. I'm gonna go with Budo again. I think he's gonna continue to build on his kind of storyline this week. We already got the word that Hauser's going to the bullpen. So Mendoza told us that he's moving to the bullpen. So Budo's confidence has to be at a high. He knows at this point that he's in the rotation. So my guy's gonna be Budo. I think he's gonna pitch with some confidence, and he's gonna shut down this Cardinals lineup on Tuesday.
All right. Yeah, that's a good pick. Budo is always exciting to watch, but I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm actually going to go with your pick from last week and go with Edwin Diaz because I think that although I obviously voiced my concerns with him earlier in the episode, but I still have faith in him. Like I said, I think he bounces back. All this does is light a fire in him, continues to bring him back into the shop, work on his stuff, and hopefully he's put in a position where he can save some games this time around, and our bats can actually give him some insurance rather than just one run, because that's so hard to work with when you're coming in the tie game or one-run game and you have literally no wiggle room. So hopefully we can get him into like a three-run save or a two-run save to at least give him a little insurance room.
Yeah, no, for sure, and that's not a bad pick. Like I said, bullpen arms need work, but they need the right work. They need to be like an every other day, every 2 days. That's how they like to work. And Diaz hasn't gotten into a game consistently all year, right? We worked them a couple games in a row, or we didn't see him for a week. That's not how bullpen arms work, and that's not how they like to work. And so, and that's why I wasn't too concerned with Diaz, because I think it's about how the Mets are playing. So I do like the pick. Hopefully, we get enough offense to give Diaz a chance, and let's keep it going. Or let's get it started, because right now we ain't going anywhere. So, who do you got for the Mets killer?
Well, it's hard not to go with the guy that you went with last time, right? And Wilson Contreras, because he's continuing to shine out. He's started to do well. He's been well all season long, and He's been back, or he's gotten the confidence because last year he didn't have a great season because everyone was giving him crap on his defense, but he's been able to step away from that and get his bat going again. So I'm gonna steal your pick and go back with Wilson Contreras.
Oh man, I should have gone first. I forgot all about Wilson in the moment, and I knew you were gonna steal him from me if I would have let you go first, and that's a mistake on me. But you know what? I'm gonna go with the other guy. I think the guy that you picked last time, and I'm gonna go with Arenado. You know, you know, yeah, yeah. Again, this is a very frustrating episode. We're really frustrated with how the Mets are playing. They're giving us the seesaw. I know they're a 500 team. We know all that, but be a consistent 500 team. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Or at least don't make it such disappointing losses like it has been this series. Every single game was so disappointing. If we lose, just let us lose. Don't give us heart attacks each and every game and make us think that we have a chance of winning the game or something like that.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure, for sure. And so not a much news and notes on the weekend. The biggest news is that Hauser went to the bullpen, and so we'll probably see him out of the bullpen this series. But before we get out of here, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel. Let us know how you're feeling. I know you're frustrated, so let us know how you're feeling and give us the word that, what are you thinking about, McNeil, Alonso, the bats, let us know what you're thinking. But before we get out of here, hey, Victor, any last words?
Hey, at least we have some New York teams playing well. The Rangers won their first game in round 2 today. The Knicks play tomorrow, and that might be a game that most Mets fans tune into instead of watching the Mets. But let's go Knicks, let's go Rangers, let's go Mets.
Yeah. Let's go Knicks. Let's go Rangers. Let's go Mets.